Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me this week is my go-to podcast compadre and podcast co-host, Mr. Joe Lever. Joe, how are you faring this week, my friend?
What does it all mean, Jimmy?
Uh-oh. Do you mean like life in general?
All of it. What does it all mean?
Well, I can tell you this. Maybe the question you have has no answer.
I'll take that. I'm doing well. How about yourself?
Just fine. The sad thing is, if people are only listening to this, they don't get to see your like listful look out the window. You're posing. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
You're like Rodin's thinker. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Very good.
Yeah.
Man, what if that was
anyway, what do we talk about on this show? What do we talk about here?
We talk about all the biggest things: existentialism, philosophy, psychology, sadism, masochism. Wait, sorry, no, we talk about movies and video games and TV shows, which basically, when you think about it, isn't that all part of it? Am I right? Indubitably. But yes, thank you everybody for joining us once again. And like last week, we're going to hone in on one movie today. We are talking about not Mortal Kombat again, which, we could talk about Mortal Kombat more if people really want it, but we're talking about this movie that recently released on Amazon, or Amazon Prime, I should say, which is called Tom Clancy's...
That's pretty good. What was it called again?
Tom Clancy's Without Remorse. Without Remorse. I had to keep looking it up. I keep reminding myself while I was watching the movie, I kept thinking, what is the name of this thing? No offense.
That's why I brought it up.
Yeah, it's just one of those names that, usually with Tom Clancy, Joe, as I was talking to you beforehand, it's usually, either a group or an individual, like Tom Clancy's Ghost Recon, or Tom Clancy's, Jack Ryan, stuff like that. So that's why when this came up, I was like, who? What? Anyway, as we always do, we're going to talk a little bit spoiler-free to begin with, and then I'll flip the old spoiler switch over here, and then we'll get into the nitty-gritty. But because I don't want to throw Joe under the bus, I'm just going to give you guys a brief spoiler-free plot synopsis. We follow Michael B. Jordan's John Kelly, I believe is his name, who's a military United States special operative who goes on a mission, finds out that maybe the mission wasn't exactly what he thought it was, and then months later, he and his team pay the price for it. And now it's up to John Kelly, along with maybe a few other people in the United States government, to get to the bottom of it, to find out who the real bad guys are, if they are foreign or maybe domestic. There you go. Look at that. There's your little stinger if somebody's like, I don't know if I should watch this. But Joe, for you, this is one you wanted to watch. You're like, I want to check this one out. What did you feel, when you saw this? What are you thinking, now that you've had a few days to process?
What did I think after I had a few days of process? It was a good movie. Man. I should have prepared more and really thought through my feelings.
This is how these are real feelings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As they bubble to the surface, I'll spew them out.
That's a great way to put it. Just like any critic, right? We're just spewing stuff out. It's
Yeah. I like Michael B. Jordan in this role. I think that he's built well for this, both physically and as an actor, period. So in that line or that vein, I think it was good. And I appreciated it. There's a bit of awkward acting in here. I mean, it's normal, natural, but it's kind of like when he's with his wife and stuff. I'm like, okay, this is weird.
You didn't buy it? Like it wasn't like you didn't buy.
I love when you wear my socks. Okay, I get it. But I do like the suspensefulness and the thriller aspect of it, and the questioning who's behind it, that kind of thing. And then the sense of realism. I mean, the combat and everything is pretty cool.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I felt like it could have been maybe a little more. The military aspect of it, I would have liked to have maybe seen a little more.
Sure.
With the guerrilla warfare and stuff, you get pieces of it, and obviously that sets up the movie, and then there's more later on. But I just wanted more.
Yeah.
But Very adult. I think a decent story, and as it should be, right? Uh, and I don't know what more can be said about it. The settings are all good. I think for the most part, well written. Well written. I think.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you kind of said there with that line about the socks and stuff. I don't know if that was like a poorly written line or poorly acted, or if it was a combination of the two. I don't know. Like for
More so just awkward. Like his
sure,
interaction with his wife, I think got a little awkward, but
sure,
they could have done a better job of making that seem even more of a
genuine.
big deal.
Yeah.
Genuine. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was there, but yeah.
Sure.
Um, yeah. And maybe there were, I don't know. He later on, he seems a little super powered-esque, but I would have liked to have seen them show off his capabilities even more so.
Yeah. Yeah. Out of any of
Um,
the Tom Clancy people, he seemed to me to be the most like he was kind of crazy on some of the stuff he would do, but he seemed the most mortal. Like he wasn't like an unstoppable killing machine. Like he had ideas and plans, but he was very much like one of just the really well-trained soldiers, you know?
yeah.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. I was going to ask you, too, I don't know if you thought about this at all, but Jamie Bell, who plays kind of that CIA contact, the guy who's like, he's got the little beard and stuff. At any moment were you thinking like me, where I was like, oh, it's like a little Fantastic Four reunion here? I was like, these two guys have worked together before. And I was like, oh, these guys must have been like, hey, you're going to be on this thing? It's good to see you again. Like,
Yeah, I haven't seen
I know.
that. So
I was just curious if you thought about it. He was the Thing, believe it or not.
Was he really?
Yes.
Wow.
And then Guy Pearce was in this, but that was a different Marvel thing. He was the Mandarin. But yeah, it's kind of like it gets a little confusing. There's a lot of like, what would you call it? Like government politics. So there's like a lot of like, that person's the head of this and this person's the head of that, and they like kind of come together, and I'm like, I don't like, they're all supposedly on the same side but not. There's like, well, this is like the CIA sanctioned this, and like, we're not part of the CIA, and I'm like, yep, I'm keeping it all together. Like, I know you guys definitely aren't the same group, right? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's a little convoluted, but I think it's purposeful, I should say, but maybe
True.
not. I'm not sure. I was also going to ask you this. I was wondering when I started this up, I'm like, is this R-rated? And then when they started like shooting people and like I could see no blood splatter and the kind of the lack of swearing, I was like, oh no, this is PG-13. I don't know if it would have benefited more or less from an R rating, but
unnecessary.
but yeah, I just think
They
it would have
fine
played
without it.
It would have played into the realism maybe a little more for me if it was, because it's like, this is a pretty realistic movie for the most part, and
True.
like some of that stuff I think would have, for me, I would have been like, oh yeah, that's like kind of scary.
And being that it's on HBO or Amazon Prime, I mean, people are going to watch it anyway.
Yeah.
Maybe it could have done it without much.
That's I was
backlash.
wondering, was this gonna, I don't think this was gonna be like a release to the theaters, so that's why I was kind of thinking, I was like,
Nope.
oh, I wonder why they chose, maybe it was a budget thing and they're like, PG-13 is just easier or whatever else. But this is the type of movie I thought, oh, it's like a, you know, they're special ops, they're gonna be swearing at each other and swearing at other people, and there's gonna be blood and stuff, but they didn't do that. So if you're one of those people who likes to watch those types of movies but doesn't like that, or you're underage and your parents won't let you, this would be one you could make them or allow you to watch, maybe. I don't know. I want to say this too about Michael B. Jordan. I like him. He doesn't get to be as charismatic because he's very angry in this movie, without giving away too much, or he's supposed to kind of be on a vengeful trip.
Yeah.
And he does some things where I'm like, man, I know you're angry, but I would not have chosen that course of action. It's very bold. But the guy has like a swagger to him. Like when he walks, like he's fun to watch. Like I'm like, you're a cool guy. I like it when he's more, gets to be more charismatic, but this just wasn't that role. Like he couldn't, he's not supposed to be having a good time. And
it's not Black Panther, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. When he's in he's you're just like, you watch him, you're just like, oh my gosh, this guy is so cool. But there wasn't really anybody. Everybody's pretty sullen in this movie. It's all pretty serious, which I guess it should be. But yeah, it was kind of one of those things that I didn't really connect with anybody. I don't know about you, besides maybe him a little bit, but like everybody else, like the other soldiers, they kind of introduce late, and they kind of give people like they give their names, and I was like,
you have to connect with him, right? It's all about him.
Yeah.
And they're developing him to be, future installments, I would guess, right?
Yeah.
John Kelly. I'm sure there's going to be more. And they end the movie in a good way to set that up. Not that I'll get into it now.
Yeah. Is there anything else you want to say? Would you recommend this to people? Would you not? Maybe there are caveats to it.
I certainly would. It's not a long film. It's like a little under a minute or an hour 50. And for the most part, it moves. It moves. I enjoyed it. The suspensefulness, you think a little bit, you're trying to put the puzzle together in your own way as you watch. And so I think it's enjoyable, especially for I'd say the more adult crowd would enjoy it.
Sure. Yeah, it's not, I would not recommend it, even because it is PG-13, I think, or maybe it's got like a T rating, like 16 plus. They've started doing that now. The ratings are all over the place on television, but This is something I think if you're like a Tom Clancy fan, this is going to kind of, I think you would probably enjoy this a little bit more. It does take this stuff very seriously. This is not going to be like your quippy action war movie that you would see from like a studio that would be in theaters. I'm trying to think of like what it would be a close comparison to it. Like, I'm not sure if there's anything nowadays, because it's like, this is it's supposed to be realistic, and there's not like a bunch of like crazy science fiction technology that they're using. It's like, if this really happened, this is like, what you're seeing on screen. So I wouldn't go into it thinking that it's going to be like also like Ghost Recon. I thought in the beginning it was going to be. I was like, oh, this is going to be a bunch of like people stealthing the entire time. Like, oh my gosh, they're so good. There was not as much of that as I thought. And like you, I kind of wanted more of that. I was like, oh, I could do with some more of like, we got to take the house.
Like that opening sequence.
It was great. I thought the whole movie, like, it's like with Mortal Kombat. It's like you think the movie's going to be like this, and it's like, no. It's going to go a different direction. And you're like, oh, okay. But yeah, I thought it was fine. I didn't think it was bad. Thought there was some well-known good actors in there too, and I think this is a good place to watch it. It's just to be like, oh, yep, it's on Amazon, perfect. As part of the Tom Clancy thing. And like Joe was alluding to, I think it is really building up towards some more stuff. So this might be something that retroactively a lot of people come back to, because they might watch subsequent films and be like, oh wow, I totally missed that they had like an origin story for John Kelly, and they'll be like, well, here it is, like a 2-hour movie for you. So,
and they kind of might meld in with the whole Jack Ryan stuff or things like that,
Yes, which we'll get into it here, so recommendations for both of us, I think, but if you want, Joe, I can flip the old spoiler switch now.
Flip.
Okay, there's not really that many spoilers. I don't know if you're like me, Joe. It took me like a minute, but then it was like, all right, so after the cool, like the intro, where all that stuff, it's like the cool, like, they shoot a guy, they catch him in the water, and they're taking guys out. At first I thought he did it by himself, but then the other, like, kind of his other Spec Ops units came up with him. I'm like, oh, this is great, I love this. But then after all that takes place, and kind of like the mission that like kind of, it's like, oh, this is not exactly the mission we thought it was going to be. But they go to like John and his wife, his pregnant wife, are at this like barbecue, this family barbecue. And it took me like a minute, but then after a second, I was like, what am I watching? And then I was like, I'm watching like a war movie and like maybe kind of like some thrill and stuff. And I was like, oh, John has much to lose, doesn't he? And it was like the pregnant wife and stuff, and I was like, she's so dead. And then like it just like a few minutes later, definitely dead. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah,
like I was like,
I'll admit it was pretty depressing at that point. And there's a lot of this film where you're watching it and they put him in extreme peril, and you're like, yeah, you're not going to get much satisfaction out of the end of this film. I thought for sure it was going to be like there was John Kelly's moment.
Yep, I agree. Like, there's like, I was like, did he get his revenge? I'm like, no, he didn't. Oh, wait, he did. But there's like a lot of stuff where, like, in the prison sequence when he's just like, maybe you can explain this to me. He gets imprisoned eventually for doing something insane, which is like taking like
killing a Russian ambassador.
Yeah, but like not even
course.
just killing Russian ambassador, like lighting the car on fire, getting in the car with him and interrogating him, which is like his thing. He gets in cars with people and interrogates them under extreme circumstances. He does it twice in the movie. I was like, the next time he does it, he'll be surrounded by electricity and he'll be like, don't touch the handle. Like, you're going to get zapped, buddy. But so he goes to prison for that, but he starts like beating up these cops or these like security guards in the prison. I didn't get the water thing. Was it giving him like an advantage? Like he was slippery?
So that if they try and grab him, he's slippery. Not only that, but they can't get good footing because they're slipping on the terrazzo floor.
I guess
concrete floor.
But like, and he didn't slip on the floor.
He was prepared for it. They came in unexpecting.
Okay. Sure.
Oh shit. You know, I think that's what he was going for.
I just don't understand. Like he was like, all right, you shut that door. I'm started snapping necks. I'm thinking like, all right, but like, how's this end for you? And obviously, like he got kind of like a get out of jail free card because his higher up, like I don't know if that was like his CO who kind of bailed him out of that situation. But I was like, how is this gonna end?
Kinda.
I was like, he's gonna like 20 more guards are gonna come in there. Like it's like, how are you gonna beat all of them up? Because he did a good job. But I was like,
well, I didn't understand where they were taking him either. I thought they were gonna like beat the tar out of him or something or do something to him.
They were going to take him because he was in that like prison where like the Russian mob was, and I think the guards were going to take him to a place to get murdered, so that's why he was like, unless you tell me where we're going, I'm not leaving the cell.
Exactly. That's what I thought too.
Yeah, but I just like, I was wondering, it's like, okay, so you're going to have like 30 guards beat him up and then have him killed anyway? Like I was thinking, I was like, isn't there a better way to do this, like in the yard or the cafeteria or something? But he was in solitary and he had a nice little room, didn't he? I was like, oh, you got a little sink and everything. Look at you, buddy. I was like, congratulations, you're looking jacked. But yeah, so I thought it was an interesting, because like Guy Pearce is kind of like almost like, it's like, yep, this is the villain. Like when you meet him, like you're sitting there with him and Jamie Bell, and I'm like, all right, so one of these guys is the bad guy. And I was like, but which one is it? You know what I mean? Like they both could be the bad guy, for me anyway. And like he's kind of like, yeah, I think he's in the perfect state of mind to be out in the field after his CO says like,
who is that guy again?
Guy Pearce.
Yeah, so him.
Yeah,
he was the Secretary of Defense.
Maybe. I don't.
He was Secretary of something, and I assume that's what it was.
Or Department of Defense,
Mr. Secretary,
or something. Yeah, probably. He was a big deal, and he could kind of do what he wanted. But he also worked with that woman who was like the head of the CIA. Kind of in that one little moment that they're all sitting at a little card table in the cargo container or whatever. For that special operation that they got John Kelly for. And I was like, there's probably other people that you could send out to do this, because he's like a loose cannon. Like clearly he's not like the type of guy you'd want to put in the field, because like, you know what I mean?
But
it's like,
the secretary, he said, yeah, he's perfectly fit, because he knew he
wanted him dead.
Screw Loose wanted him dead and would do anything to do that, and might leave the evidence of his own dead body or not care about his fellow comrades, and they die there. And next thing you know, they leave evidence, and the Russian government is like, American soldiers dead on our land or our soil, and now we got a war. And that's what he wanted. So
yeah. I was just thinking, like, if the head of the CIA and stuff, and like other people knew about this meeting and knew that like John Kelly was going to be part of it, I wonder if like that would have ever gotten back like to this guy, to Mr. Secretary, and then been like, hey, like you okayed like the guy who killed like a Russian diplomat to be like on the Spec Ops team. Like, are you like that would be pretty like that'd be a hard thing to sell, I would think, to your higher ups. But maybe they didn't care. Maybe they didn't know. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the whole process of it is probably a tad far-fetched. But
sure. I do like the tie-in, though, because you brought up the whole Jack Ryan stuff. If you do watch the show, Jack Ryan works with a guy, last name Greer, who is the uncle of John Kelly's CO, that lady that's kind of throughout the entire movie with him. So there's that tie-in. Even though Greer is like, her uncle is like this, he's such a jerk. But he and Jack have like formed a relationship over time. Great show, by the way. I know a lot of people I've talked to, they're like, I don't think I could watch John Krasinski, or AKA Jim from The Office, be like a super spy. He's not like a full super spy in that show. He's like an accountant or economist kind of turned spy, but it's believable enough. He does a good job. And that show is actually pretty interesting. I would recommend you check that out too.
From Eau Claire, Wisconsin.
He's from Wisconsin. Look at that. Look at that.
And he's married to, who is it again? Was in the Silent movie with him?
Oh, dude, Emily Blunt.
Yeah.
One of my favorite stories from him is he was on one of the Tonight, it was the Tonight Show, one of those evening shows.
Jimmy Kimmel?
Was it? And he was talking like he couldn't get into, or he had to prove that he was who he was, and he was talking to some guy over in London at the airport because he's going to go see Emily, his wife.
Yeah.
He's like,
wait, you?
Yeah. Like, you're married to Emily Blunt? Or he's like, oh, what would I know you from? And he's like, The Office. And he's like, the American version. And the guy was like, not having it. He was like, no, the British Office is better. Version. I was like, so, John Krasinski seems great. And I was really hoping he'd pop up here at some point because they kind of were dropping hints. And I was like, ooh, maybe. Like, that would have been nice to see. But, they didn't. And it was setting up the Rainbow Six stuff, which at the end I was like, oh, yeah, because he had a moment where he saw a rainbow and stuff. And which a lot of people were hoping.
Did he see a rainbow? What was that? Yeah.
He does say rainbow at the very end. Did you stay after the credits?
Yep. Okay. After the credits scene, yeah, I saw that. But he saw a rainbow at some point. Why was the rainbow thing personal?
It's kind of, you have to look for it. But okay, so when he's doing his second interrogation in a car with Guy Pearce and he drops in the water, which apparently he can hold his breath for a super long time. I kind of wish they would have established that. They kind of do earlier with the whole plane crash. So you could probably do it. Anyway, so he's sitting down there, and there's like a kind of like a beam that's a rainbow when he's kind of thinking of his wife while he's sitting like in the car in the water.
Oh, okay.
And that's where it kind of comes from. It's not. It probably should have been. I don't know, because like a CG rainbow, like when he's talking to his wife in those dream sequences, might have been kind of weird. But there was like two of those dream sequences. One where they're like making out in a forest, and then she gets like horror movie pulled away or whatever, like because he's been shot and he's like in a coma. And then there's that other one where they're just kind of sitting by a fire, and I was like, they must have gone camping a lot, or I don't know, like there was something there that but anywho, but yeah, that's why you wanted to call it Rainbow. And I like how he dressed up. He almost looked like a professor at the end of the movie, and maybe that's part of his like disguise. He had like a like a long coat on and like the glasses and stuff, and he's like, I will make this thing called Rainbow. And I'm like, oh, you still want to work with the government that kind of betrayed you? Okay.
Yeah, I didn't quite get that either.
I was like, all right, cool. Jane Bell's like, all right, we can talk to the president about that. Like, the president might not want to talk to you. You've killed a lot of people. Like, it would be a hard sell. I'd be like, you killed a Russian diplomat, and then he also killed, like, the Secretary of Defense or Department of Defense person. Yeah. But, yeah. What did you think of the plane crash sequence? What did you think about all that?
My immediate thought about the plane crash was that pilot is calm, cool, and collected.
Yeah, he's just like, it's fine. We lost one of our engines. It's totally cool. I was like,
get back, strap in, prepare for a hard landing. He said it so calmly. I was like, wow, that guy ain't scared of shit.
Yep. I trained for this. I've trained to be shot down over Russian like territory. I was like, oh my God, if that happened today, like it would be. Like it is national news on the thing, but I was like, oh my gosh, like this would be they'd be like, yep, we found these people, and I like how he says get low. There's like a moment where they're kind of going through the main cabin. He's like, get low, but he's still looking out the windows. I'm like, okay, are you gonna like lay down? Like I know you want us as the viewer to see out the window to see the fighter jets, but I was like, if you thought that was a problem, I would not have the special units backpack on and be standing like looking out the window.
Maybe shut some lights off.
Yeah, I was like, oh no. But yeah, that whole thing, I was like, oh, I don't know if you could sell like a passenger plane flying over there, like that. And they got found out pretty quickly and shot down, but they didn't it didn't explode. I was surprised. I was like, hey, there we go. A plane crash in a movie that doesn't they don't just blow up in the air. They went down and they landed in the
back to the realistic deal, and yeah.
Which he really wanted to get his gear. He said it like 3 or 4 times. He was like, I gotta get the gear.
Yeah. There's no mission without the gear. There's no, because he had to have that mission happen. He wasn't gonna just go in and all right, extract this. Which was cool. I didn't think he was gonna get it done. Yeah, I was impressed.
Well, there's a lot of I'll give them this between this and the fight scenes and stuff too. There was a lot of Steadicam stuff. I really respect it because in a lot of these things, I think the tantalizing thought is to just to make it more dramatic is to shake the camera the whole time. But there was a lot of just slow watch the action. Here's the plane turning. There's water filling up and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is all pretty I think for the most part it looked like physical stuff, like they were in like on sets and stuff, probably in a big tank of water somewhere. But that looked really nice, and there's that kind of the hallway fight at the end where he really wanted to get that bag of explosives, and I was like, I don't know what your tactic is to get out of here, buddy, but he's like, I need to get that bag of explosives, and he did eventually. And it was his ace in the hole, baby.
Yeah, thank God they had that boat too with the motor. I don't know how that worked.
Yeah, I guess it's just like an engine that has that dinghy like deflated, and then you get the dinghy out and inflate it, and then the engine's.
But the dinghy must be wrapped around the engine to keep it waterproof, because otherwise that thing is, waterlogged and ain't gonna run. It ain't gonna run.
Maybe there are new. Are there any new engines or outboard motors that are like it's like a GoPro?
I don't know. They'd have to have some sort of protective like valve in it, like a backflow prevention, because it would go in and it would flood the engine, and
Which
so maybe there's some method they have for that. I don't know.
Yeah. I thought it was interesting, too, that in the beginning of the film, they all had silencers, and at the end, it was supposed to be like the really secret mission, and they didn't have any silencers out anymore. I
noticed that, too.
I was like, hey, guys, I'm not a huge gun guy, but I was like, this is supposed to be, like, sneaky. It was just like...
I'm not a huge gun guy either, but that was another part of the realism I enjoyed, all those guns, and I only know anything about them because of, like, Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And as cheesy as that is, it's like, wow, that's so cool. Like, he had the Holger... I think it's just called the Holger, and it's an LMG actually, but it's kind of like a hybrid. And so that was cool. It's got like the top rail on it. He had a cool like canted hybrid sight, so he had a scope, but also with a red dot. I thought that was neat. The his CO or whatever that was with him, she had a Ram 7. I mean, for some reason,
know anything about guns.
Yeah, but now that I've seen all that stuff, and it makes me appreciate like the realism in video games. Like all that stuff is tangible, and I can be like, wow, that's neat, and so that was something I thought was cool. And I appreciate those, that realism there and the equipment they use. I think that's really neat.
Yeah.
Which brings me to, you're talking about when they were fighting there and they didn't have any silencers, them and the sniper fight. What did you think about that?
Okay, with the 50 cal, the Barrett 50 cal, right?
Barrett.
Okay, so that sniper is maybe one of the worst snipers I've ever seen in my life, because like gets one or two shots and then like they would cut away and either the scope wasn't calibrated, and usually I'm not a guy to be picky about this, but they were like, all right, we're going to keep cutting back to the scope of the sniper, and we're going to like show you where they're aiming, and then they take the shot, and then they'd shoot back to the perspective of like the soldiers, and it would hit somewhere else. And I'm like, you gotta get together, sniper. You got a guy laying out there. And I was like, why are you wasting all these shots? I was like,
well, in a Barrett 50 cal, apparently you can shoot through like a brick wall. Like, and that one guy gets hit by it. Yeah. I would figure his leg is just blown.
Gone. Yeah. Which again, if it was R, it'd probably be blood everywhere. But that whole thing, and then like taking out the Russian cops to make it look like Americans. All I was thinking is, I guess you could swing it that way if you wanted a war, but like any person who's going to look at the ballistics is going to be like, hey, like someone used like a sniper rifle and all the guys we got didn't have a sniper rifle, but I guess they just cover it up and be like, it doesn't matter. But I like that they were using the call outs, and that was really realistic, like crossing, or they'd be like, they'd be like, all right, he used like the mirror, like the shard of the mirror, and he's like, third floor, second window, and then someone would repeat and be like, third floor, second window. There was very like, really, that's the Tom Clancy stuff you come for, like if this were legit, like how they would talk.
Legitimate military coordination type stuff.
Which that was great. I wanted more of that. I wanted them moving through houses and buildings, but they didn't really have that opportunity. Like they found the guy they were looking for, and that guy just blew himself up. And I was like, and they kept talking.
Yeah, which I thought was anticlimactic, but then it led to something bigger, which is kind of okay. But it was the guy who killed his wife.
Well, no, it wasn't the guy who killed his wife. It was the other guy who killed his wife, I think, because then he was the guy who came in and shot the guy who killed his wife.
Yeah, and why did they wanted him to find him? Because he was a pawn. They want him to find him so that they go over there. Yeah. There's a whole breadcrumb thing.
So he never got the chance to kill the guy who actually killed his wife, even though it's like, oh, you killed the guy who like maybe was the guy who put the hit out or whatever. I don't know. It was fine. There was just a lot of this like, I'm a pawn and I'm gonna take down the king. And then like other people were saying like the other guy, the guy with the C4 or whatever, he was talking about being a pawn and like going after a king. And there was like a lot of this like chess kind of stuff in there, and then at the end he's like, what was I thinking?
Yeah.
Pawn can't kill a king. And I'm like, what is this like is this like a term that people have been using for like
Well,
a
and
long
in the
time?
beginning, he like makes that move, the bishop taking the rook or whatever, and that the kid's playing chess. He
That's
does
right.
that. Yeah.
See, that would have been better if he would have used a pawn to take like a big piece, and even like, oh, look at that, like a pawn can be really effective. That's where I would have wrote that. I would have been like, that in that moment.
I know we're jumping around quite a bit, but
Sorry.
back in the beginning, is his wife's about to get toasted, and as cringy as that, I mean, that was pretty like wow. Yeah, that's I mean, that's a punch in the gut there. But what kind of psychopath lays on a couch in their basement listening to music, eating nuts
I was thinking about that too, because she's
at like midnight?
she's like, don't go downstairs and listen to music all night. And maybe there are people out there. If anybody listening to this does that, it's okay. But the thing is, he's like in his basement, supposedly 2 floors below his sleeping wife, in the darkness with headphones on that are it's attached to a laptop. But the laptop battery died, but it wasn't plugged into anything. Okay, so the laptop battery died first, and there's like a spec ops unit that comes to the house and cuts the power. So the laptop battery just dies, thankfully. Like, good thing the battery wasn't in there. He plugs it in, that's not working. He goes to turn on a light, that's not working. He's like, oh, but it's a laptop. It's not even like a PC, because like if a PC did that, it would probably shut down, and he'd be like, oh, what's going on? But if it was a laptop and the battery was still good, then and it wasn't even plugged in. That's the thing. It's like your laptop. Joe. It's like it doesn't make sense.
Well, it does. I mean, the sheer chance that he never had it plugged in to begin with, so it was running on low power, and the fact that it died at the right moment. I mean, it's kind of like happenstance. Like, oh, lucky timing, you know.
Yeah, we could. I'm just saying we could probably paint him into a better corner. Like, with something like that. Like, there could have been, like, he's in the complete, you're right, he's in the complete darkness eating nuts. Like, there's no electronics near him besides the laptop, which is a bright light casting onto him. And he's just
if only he had a, like, lamp on that would have cut when the power went, you know?
Yeah, because then he could have gone, like, checked that and been like, and looked at, like, the clock, and the clock died, and he'd have been like, what the heck? But yeah, so I was thinking, too, I was like, he did have his gun. He did have a pistol nearby him, which I wouldn't be surprised if you're any type of special ops or army or, ex-armed forces. You might have a weapon in most of the rooms of your house just because that's, like, you're kind of trained to think like that. I was thinking, like, now after this, his whole house or apartment or wherever he lives will just be constantly booby-trapped. Like, because this one wasn't. Like, he's just, like, from now on. Like, after that mission, I would have been like, this is a weird mission. And it was 3 months later. And you do watch his crew get taken out. But I knew, by the way, again, I'm not trying to trash on this movie because I thought it was good. But there's that guy who goes out to, like, throw garbage away. And he, like, walks out almost in the middle of the street. And, like, his daughter's yelling at him. And he's like, I'll be right back. Just give me a second. And then he gets hit by that van out of nowhere. And he just kind of, he's crumpled. I'm like, okay. Like, I get the hit and run. Like, you're not going to be able to trace it back. But I was like, really? He just, like, was taking out the garbage. He, like, walks into the street to do it. I'm like, this is not like I don't know.
I mean, when I take my garbage out, I could probably get hit if
I guess you don't even hear that thing coming. I guess he's too focused on his daughter. I'm like, just throw the bag in.
Yeah, I guess.
Get back to
the
house.
The whole hit and run thing, I mean, they're lucky he died, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
He could survive that.
Oh, totally. Yeah. I was trying to think, how did the other, because there's another member that dies. How does the other member? There's like, because 2 get taken out in pretty rapid succession. Because there's him and there's somebody else who dies, but I don't remember who, and I'm so sorry. It's not supposed to be. I'm not saying I'm gonna do better. It's just like I'm just trying to think.
The other guy driving in his Mustang, he's caught in traffic, and then the people hop out of the van and shoot him a million times and get back in and drive away.
That's the thing is I'm thinking, like, if you're going to do, because I think that guy was from the OC back in the day. Maybe. I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure that's like the bad boyfriend guy. Anyway, so if you're going to kill that one dude by the hit and run, and then the other guy is going to get shot, like, by multiple times by, like, an assault rifle, like, so you're trying to make it so it's like they're not connected, but, like, clearly one was like a hit and the other one you're like, because like at that point you're either saying, like,
doesn't even matter. They don't care if there's a pattern to it. I mean, they're taking out all the Navy SEALs that were in that team. It's pretty apparent. You
Yeah.
know?
Oh, I'm just saying from like it would be kind of more fun as like a movie, I think, because like the CIA takes it as like, oh, they are being targeted, but that first one might have been like oh, that was a freak accident. It happened 3 months after,
okay.
versus like him like getting his like a garrote, like, you know, getting garroted, like, you know, like piano or fiber wire, like, you know, somewhere, and they'd be like, yep, we found him. He was choked to death. Like, clearly was targeted. This other guy got shot in his car, clearly targeted. Because like I was like, why would you go through the work of making one look like an accident when the other one is clearly not an accident? Like, he got shot in traffic. Like, tons of people saw it. Somebody probably put it on TikTok. It's like not, it's not good. I don't know. Just stuff like that. I don't know. I'm nitpicking here. But yeah, no, it's good that I like jumping all over this movie because, you know, that's where the fun is. I liked Jamie Bell, though. Kind of playing somebody that I haven't seen. I've seen him. I know him best for Turn, Washington Spies. Really good show, by the way. And it was cool to see him play kind of not a great person. But, like, you thought the whole time he was probably the bad guy. Because, like, you could see him. Like, I laughed out loud when they showed up after the whole airplane crash. And they, like, showed up to the safe house. And there were, like, some Russians there with, an open briefcase full of money. And I was like... I laughed because I was like, oh my gosh, if he is actually the bad guy, this is the most like condemning thing you've ever seen in your life. And they meant to do that. Like, the movie was like, we're going to make you think he's bad, but he was like, no, I was trying to get the job done. These are some freelance contractors here who are working, you know, because I thought you were all dead. And it's like, oh, so he's not such a bad guy. But like for a while there, you're like, oh, I totally, like, this guy's such a scumbag. Like, I hate it.
It's set up too perfectly, right?
Yeah. Especially early on where he's like, I don't see any dead Russians. And you're like, oh, that's how it's going to be. Like, he's that guy. Yeah. He's like I don't have a problem with this. But I liked him. I thought he was good. I thought he played it really well. And also getting choked out by Michael there and like he's like getting purple and stuff. I was like, oh my God. Like, I don't know if that was an effect or something, but it looked legit. I was like, okay.
I think he really did it.
Yeah. He was like getting his head slammed against the thing. I was like, oh, it seems realistic to some degree. But yeah, I thought he was interesting. I thought he was pretty compelling. What did you think of the CO? What did you think of her?
Excuse me. I don't know. To be honest, would I have liked to have seen somebody else in that role? Was she believable as a CO? I guess.
Sure. I like that there's that moment. I thought she had forgotten that she ran out of bullets, but her gun just jammed, and then she gets in that kind of fight for her life, and then she barely scrapes by and gets him with the knife. And there's that whole sequence with John Kelly doing the whole like Assassin's Creed, like I'm jumping windows and stuff, and he gets there too late.
I thought she was toast.
Yeah, I was like, oh, and I also I'm not like him. I would not have thought to do like I'll jump on this window to crawl over here, but he gets there.
Well, how'd she get over there so fast?
I was thinking that too. I thought the buildings weren't connected, but it was connected, and maybe it was like around a corner.
It was like U-shaped, but still, I couldn't.
Yeah,
I don't know. She's fast.
Yeah, she was fast. I kind of think also she was the one, which I respected earlier on, where she was like, I don't think this guy, even though I've kind of vouched for him, is like in the right mind to be out in the field because he's kind of like a loose cannon. I would have thought like he would not have been able to take point on that operation. And because there's that moment where he runs around the corner and like smashes the gate. And I was like, I figured she would have like it would have maybe made more sense for her to be like, hey John, you get back here, like you're behind me now because like I can't, whatever you're gonna do is probably bad.
Sure.
Like just watching him the whole time, but she kind of gives up on that pretty quickly. She's just kind of like, oh, we're kind of doing stuff now. But I will give it to that team. They get into that room that John is sitting in with that guy, the other guy. The kind of Russian double agent who's American. They get to that room pretty quickly. I'm like, okay, good, because it's like it's a team of spec ops. That gate would be like a few seconds of a problem, you know, like it wouldn't be like we can't get through, he's gonna ruin the mission. It was like
it's a little bent tab of metal.
I was like, okay, they'll get through this, and then they showed up, and I was like, okay, that's probably. I just thought the bomb that he put off was gonna like take out the whole building, but it only just took out the little room he was in because like he had all that Semtex on him. I was like, I don't know what the explosive yield is. I'm not that guy, but I was like, oh, they're all gonna die here. I was like, he's not gonna get out of here.
I thought so too.
Yeah, I was surprised. I was like, oh, that wasn't nearly as bad as I thought it was gonna be. But yeah, I will give him this though. They didn't do the whole dead man switch thing, like they had it or whatever. but they didn't say it.
Yeah.
He wasn't like, he didn't click the button and say like, if I die, like my thumb will slip off this and like it'll blow it up anyway. Like they didn't. I was like, good job, movie. It's like,
his goal wasn't to live anyway.
yeah, he's like, we're just pawns, you know? And I was like, man, everybody they love chess. And I love chess too, to a certain degree. I just was like, it was kind of a running theme in the movie, but I wanted more of that, you know? Like, if you want to do that, then maybe make the CO the bishop, you know, make them each a thing, you know? Like, that's the rook, you know, that's the knight.
Oh, sure.
Stuff like that's what I've thought about that. Side note for like a movie, Joe, is like, if you're like a mastermind, like if you're like a chess player, you'd be like, oh, that's my knight, that's my bishop. Like, you know, my bishop attacks on the slant, my knight attacks in a weird way, my rook is very straightforward, you know, that kind of thing. That's how I'm thinking. What else did I want to say about this? But yeah, one thing I respect the realism though. Like it did feel pretty realistic. It didn't go too flashy. It seemed all really plausible. I'm just surprised that whole airplane crash. I thought they were so dead. I was like, oh, they got found out by the Russians really quick. I thought they were all gonna, like, not that they were gonna die there, but I was like, how are you gonna get out of this one? I was like, what do you tell the Russians? You're like, oh, nope, sorry, we're just flying in. We got some passengers here, excited to see Red Square. Like, I was like, they're gonna.
I guess they were just lucky the pilot shot them in the wing, and
yeah, well, they're like, we're gonna bring you down, and I was like, okay. And then I was thinking, okay, where's that team? And I'm sure there would have been like some helicopters who flew out to that area to kind of scavenge, you know, like where the plane crash was and stuff. Because I was thinking, oh, they didn't really have anybody there. They were a ways out. They're like over the like one of the seas or something. So it's like, okay, I guess they couldn't scramble people that quickly. But yeah, dude, that dinghy, man, savior of the day. When I saw that pop up, I was like, there you go. They're gonna be okay. But yeah, so is there anything else you want to talk about with this, man? I'm just trying to think if there's anything else we didn't mention here. Again, I hope people don't think I'm being too nitpicky. I think it was good. I thought it was solid. Like you know.
How about the ending? The satisfaction scenario.
The whole I liked him jumping him in the men's bathroom because there's always that kind of like, oh, he's got security, but he got past the security kind of thing.
Yeah, no one knows how he got him out of the bathroom.
I was thinking that too. I was like,
presumably through the sewer line. I don't know.
That's why it's always nice to have a blackout with somebody, because like if you write that way, you could be like, we don't have to explain anything. You just have to know he got into the car.
It's fine. Yeah, it was cool. You know, this whole premise is the U.S. is trying to. Well, this guy's trying to initiate a war with Russia because he thinks it'll be good for the economy of the U.S. to bolster up and you know, oppose that force. Kind of comparable to like World War II and that kind of thing. And describes himself as an economist. You know, economists win war, that type of thing. And to a certain degree, you understand that. Like, there's a driving point there. And it makes sense. Despite the grave costs of doing so.
Yeah.
So anywho, you know, that gets kind of found out. John basically interrogates him in a car and drives him off of a bridge, makes him say his wife's name, and then watches him drown. It was pretty cool. Not to mention pretty damn bold to kill somebody like that. And there was like no repercussion or manhunt, but he's a ghost at this point, right? He's presumed dead. But they don't really speak about, well, the Department of Defense Secretary was just murdered. Well, they do mention that, but it's like, yeah. And you think he's going to like watch him drown and be like, all right, my job is done.
Yeah,
and you
exactly.
think that's it. But then he gets rescued by his CO, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pulls him out. And you're like, okay, this is going to go on. And part of you's like, man, if you really think about the gravity of the movie and you know, the whole, you know, his revenge kick and you know, his wife and unborn child being killed, I mean, all that's got to be, in the way he was throughout most of the movie, you think, why would he continue on? At this point, he's got nothing to lose, probably wouldn't mind to just call her a day, you know? And but no, and then he comes back, and then you get the end credit scene too, where he meets with that now the director of the CIA. He got promoted. I forget his name.
Mm-hmm. You're talking about Jamie Bell.
Yeah, he gets promoted to the director of the CIA for kind of uncovering all this and presenting it, and then yeah, John Kelly's there, and then proposes this Rainbow task force, and I don't know. It's like, wow. After everything you've gone through, good on you for wanting to keep going, I guess.
Yeah, I think maybe you bring up a good point about like character motivation, where obviously like if someone kills like your wife and unborn child, obviously that would drive you to do something, right? But maybe this would have been better if they would have trimmed some of that, and maybe this is like in the books or something. Maybe this is like, actually what Tom Clancy has written. I don't know. But for me, I guess it would make more sense to have like his CEO, his whole team gets wiped out. He's supposedly dead as well, but then he finds out that like this stuff happened in the government. You don't have to have the wife and child as a motivation. And then at the end, he could be like, I want to make this anti-terrorism group to not only work against other countries, but to work in favor of our country. So that way another team never has this happen again, where they're like serving their country so dogmatically and still get shot in the back. Like that would make more sense, because you're right, because like after this I was thinking like, what do? Do you like just take that duffel bag of money and go away and live in a town and just have like a little job and you just never talk about your past? Like I was like, nah, it's not gonna happen. So yeah, I thought that was kind of strange. But I will say this, I thought the Guy Pearce thing, when he was talking about like the reasoning behind it, I was like, oh, I get why someone like this would say that. And he was talking about like how I thought it was a kind of a funny line, but kind of topical. He was like, half of this country hates the other half, because they have nobody else to fight, and they want to fight with each other. And I was like, oh, that's kind of poignant. I was like, I was thinking about that. I was like, yeah, I mean, that kind of, I get that, because he's like, there's no one else for us to fight. And he's like, the biggest countries in the world need wars to keep us afloat. And I was like, I'm not in favor of that, but I was like, from his point of view, that was kind of like his tilt on it. And yeah, I was like, okay, like I get it, but that's not like that's not a good thing. And no wonder they iced him and screaming Pam. Every time I heard Pam, I was just thinking of The Office. And it's like, and that's where I'm thinking of Jim and John Krasinski, and then it brings back to Jack Ryan. So that's where I was going. But yeah, I thought Guy Pearce was pretty good. His hair, did you notice his hair? It was just like perfectly slicked. It was like just the perfect gray slick. And then when he finally got captured, it was kind of crazy. Like he was like, like I'll tell you all my secrets. And thank goodness they had that little waterproof recording device. I was like, look at this. There's a lot of waterproof stuff, man. They're doing it. Maybe that's how he got his pardon. Maybe he like brought it to the president and put like it's dripping wet, and he slams it on the Oval Office, just on the Resolute desk, and he's like, you're gonna pardon me, buddy.
Well, I mean, Kelly, or not Kelly, the other guy, the CIA guy, I mean, he presents that and stuff. So.
Yeah. Well, which it was in his favor, right? Because he gets promoted too. He's like, yeah, well, moving on up, as you can see.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which, yeah, I was like, okay, I'm curious to see where the Rainbow stuff goes, because Rainbow Six and all that stuff, I have a very, very small amount of time in those games, but they were always super realistic, and like a bullet was a bullet. Like you would in the campaign, you just get taken out, and it was very, very tactical. So I would love to see what they would do, especially if they add some more of those kind of crazy characters that they have with Siege nowadays. Like if they start doing movies for all those people, who knows? This could be a cinematic universe. I think that's kind of the hope.
Kicked open a big old door.
Yeah, that's the hope anyway. And the question is, would you want to watch that, or like origin stories, or do you just want to go do you want to go team? Do you want to start like building that team? Be like, all right, let's just go.
I think they could probably, for this case, go team, and then just kind of touch on origins as they do it. Maybe with like a 2-hour long movie, a little bit more time, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd love to see more of it. I think this was good, and it's almost like you take Mission Impossible and you kind of rein it in a little bit.
Yeah, that's the trick. Yeah, because it's kind of spy-ish a little bit, maybe not to the same degree, but you're right.
I think future stuff would be more spy-esque. This one more military, guerrilla warfare type deal.
You're making me want to watch
but
Fallout.
Still covert.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean that's just me trying to describe the vein of this film. It's just kind of like
Yeah.
picture Mission Impossible, but kind of reined in a little bit.
Yeah, reined in quite a bit. Yeah, they don't have anybody on the team who's Ethan Hunt, who's like, he's like, no matter what, I will do it. And they're like, it's impossible. And he's like, it doesn't matter. I will do any physical task you could possibly think of. I will pick up a building. I am Ethan. You're like, how are you doing that? But yeah, I will say that too. Like we talked about before, I like that John Kelly was like obviously a special trained soldier. He was good at what he did. There's no question about that. Like he sneaks out at the end, and I was like, oh, like, you know, that whole getting out of that whole building situation. I was like, oh, he's gonna die here, but he didn't. But I liked that
he changed quickly.
Yeah, he was smart, and but he was mortal. Like there was like in the beginning he had like a limp, and later on, like you could tell he was pretty messed up. Like he wasn't just like he wasn't John Wick. I thought it was gonna be John Wick because when they invaded the house in the beginning, I was like, oh, he's just gonna go like not even no looking, like headshotting people through like walls and stuff. He does get one shot through a wall though, which, you know, at one moment, but that's when he's saving his CO in the beginning, I believe. But
yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, but he's not like this. He's not going to walk into a nightclub and be like, boom, 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 boom. He's not that kind of guy. He's like, he's a soldier. He's working with a team, and he actually works together with other people, which I'm like, yeah, that's good. Like, more realistic. That was nice. So, yeah, I'm excited. I'm interested to see like what they would do going forward, and I don't know what they would call the next ones. And again, I'm sorry if there are Tom Clancy fans out here like you haven't read Without Remorse, or if that's even a book, or if John Kelly's based on a person from the book, or if he's brand new. I don't know. I'm so sorry. There's just so much media these days, Joe. I can't keep it straight.
We're just here to talk about the movie. Boom.
What was that?
We're just here to talk about the movie. That was it.
That was it. Yes, exactly. If anybody here has checked it out, please let us know. And if you haven't, again, it's on Amazon Prime. If you do have that as one of your myriad of subscription services, there are so many now. Kind of hard to keep track sometimes. But yeah, if any of them hear this and want to sponsor the channel, we're happy to sell out for you. Especially you, Disney Plus. I'll do it in a heartbeat. I'll do it for free passes to Disneyland, please. Anyway, Joe, that means it's time to move into the next segment of the show, what I like to call, what you like to call, what we all like to call...
Time Killers.
Yeah! Time Killers, baby. Okay, it's the games we've been playing, the movies we've been watching, TV shows we've been viewing. Joe, what have you been killing time with, pal?
Recently, more Outriders.
Outriders.
Finally.
Yep.
Still have fun with that game. I like that it makes you try hard. It's not necessarily easy, just run and gun and a bunch of cannon fodder. It is to a certain degree, but I mean, we have trouble. You really got to work together.
We have our difficulty tier, or the world tier is up really high, and I'm like a level or two below you guys with this one character, and I'm like, I'm not helping.
Yeah, which, well, and you are. I mean, part of it makes it enjoyable. The fact that you really got to grind to complete it. I mean, there was a time or two that we didn't get her done. So I enjoy the difficulty, but I also enjoy I don't know, you're constantly striving for that customization, or what's the new cool thing I'm going to get. And as you rank up and even get in the higher levels, I hope it's still really good, but I know that game won't go forever. Right. Yeah. But and I'll probably do more with another class eventually, but no, having fun with that for the most part. Still in Warzone. Lately, I tried, crazily enough, to watch a little bit of an anime. I watched 2 episodes of Death Note. And
what? What have you done with Joe? Okay, dude, I gotta know. Death Note, man. Dude, great, cool. What do you think?
I don't even know yet. It's kind of slow going to start.
Yeah, that one's a weird one.
It's weird, yeah. Like some devil angel drops a Death Note book to just get entertainment, and this guy goes on a killing spree, basically writing all the names of all the criminals in the world on the book, and then the UN or something starts to hone in on him, and it's real. If it's no more than that, I don't understand if it gets like Dragon Ball Z-esque later. I don't know.
I don't want to ruin it for you, but it does not get like that. for an anime, it doesn't have like a lot of like, I have superpowers and your superpowers are better than mine, but my powers will be better than yours, and we're gonna shoot giant energy beams at each other. That does not happen.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. Part of me is interested to give it another episode or two to see how it develops, but and I can't figure out how these people are Asian in any way. They're like,
yeah,
like it's all Japanese and culture kind of, but it's also very like they're drawn like in an American vein, and like they have brown hair. Like I don't know.
I think there's a big that's been an interesting thing, you're right, with anime for a long time, is that a lot of the characters in mainline anime don't necessarily look like they are from Japan, even if it is based physically in Japan. And I think that is supposed to be because it's eye-catching, it's different, and like you can say like, oh, that person's got crazy like spiky blonde hair, and it's like, well, you could do up your hair that way. And I think maybe it's also a way for that culture, which has kind of been historically pretty conservative, to kind of like branch out, and be like, like in our media, we are very different and stuff, even if that isn't the norm. But I don't know. That's a good point. That's a good point. That's an interesting observation, because I think about that sometimes too. I'm like, huh. Okay.
Needless to say, I mean, it's interesting though. The devil-y guy or whatever, kind of cool and freaky, but I don't know where it goes from there. I guess I'm interested to see what they could do with it, if it could be more compelling or not. If it doesn't, in an episode or two, it's over.
Yeah. My gosh, I was thinking you were gonna say something like Demon Slayer or My Hero Academia or something, and I was like, okay, he's gonna like pick one of these anime that I'm pretty familiar with, and then like I've watched Death Note, but I'm not like a crazy big fan of it. I thought it was good, but I was not.
Everybody talks about Attack on Titan, and that's only on, what is it, on Amazon Prime or something like that?
The first season was on Netflix for a while.
Oh yeah, it's on Netflix. Yeah,
that first season, if you ever watch it, man, it's intense. It is very stressful.
Apparently, you got to get to like episode 6 or something like that till Levi shows up. Then it actually gets good.
Levi's the coolest Levi, and we know Levi, and that makes me sad. Like that, the coolest character in that show is called Levi. No, yeah, he's like a buzzsaw. He just like spins, and you're like, dude, I'd be vomiting. He just slices through things. Yeah, he's great. He's really good. But yeah, well, if you ever want to take a chance on something else, man, let me know. But yeah, Death Note's kind of a different type of anime. Much more, it's more cerebral, and there's like a lot of like cat and mouse later on. It's like, oh, if you know this, then I know this.
Sure.
You. And it's like, how did you jump to that conclusion? It's like, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
Anywho, so I tried an anime. You're welcome.
Thank you. Okay. Well, thank goodness, guys. We can call it off. He tried one. We got him there. Cool, man. Nice. Is that all you've been killing time with?
I'll do her.
All right. Well, for me, yes, playing a little bit of Outriders. Still having connection issues. Like, I want to review this game, Joe, but like, I was like, I'll give it time, and then I can be like, yep, like a month out, the connection issues are solved, but we still
connection issue.
I don't know why it's still I'm like. So anyway, I've moved on. So I don't know what Outriders is going to be like. If that's a review, that's actually going to happen. But anyway, what I have done now is I've moved on to a game that, Joe, I never thought was ever going to come out. It's a sequel to one of my favorite games of all time. That's New Pokemon Snap. I played it. I streamed it for 3 days. Well, not 3 days straight. That'd be nuts. But I'm working on a review for it. I'll say this much. I enjoy it. I really do. But subjectively speaking, it doesn't have the same charm as the original. And that's not fair, because that game is like so amazing to me. It like holds a special part in my heart, But this game, it does a decent job. Joe, I want to go through with you and just look at every one of the designs for these new Pokemon, because you look at the old ones and there's just this smoothness. There's this you look at it, you're like, that was a clear idea. Like a clear idea. And then you look at the new ones and you can see the base idea, but then it's like, all right, add 2 or 3 more colors, add a bunch of sharp lines that they don't need. It's over-designed. Like one of these new ones, it's a T-Rex. It's called Tyrantrum or something. It's like a Tyrannosaurus throwing a tantrum, right? And that idea right there, if it were Gen 1, it looked like Aerodactyl is. Like, you'd be like, oh, it'd be like smooth design, 1 or 2, maybe 3 colors tops. But now this thing's got it looks like it could be cool. That's the problem. I look at him like, oh, you're so close. You just need to pull it back. It's like over-designed. It's just like add every little thing to it. I'm just like, guys, but you can really tell, like, because this game
is called Keep It Simple, Stupid.
Yeah, well, and the problem is, too, like, a lot of people be like, I'm nitpicking about this. This game is about taking pictures of these things, so I have to, like, I stare at them. I look at these things now, and I'm like, okay, like, like, what are we looking at here? And then I look at, like, I see some of those Gen 1 and 2 designs, and I'm like, oh, God, you look so good. I'm like, you just... Ooh. And not to say that all the Gen 1 and 2 designs were amazing. There definitely weren't great ones in there, but... I will say this much, Joe. My joke about them putting the trash Pokemon in here, and I mean literal trash, trubbish, like a trash bag that is a Pokemon. He made it into this game. He made the cut, or it made the cut. And then I think of all the Gen 1 and 2 Pokemon who didn't, and I'm like, you put this thing in. I was joking about it, guys. I didn't want them to do this. But anyway, it's pretty fun. I will say that much, though. It's been pretty fun to go back and, new Pokemon Snap. 22 years wait, 1999? Yeah, 22 years later, they made a sequel. So really kind of, it's interesting to me. And I wonder if it's also supposed to kind of be like a place for newcomers to get into Pokemon who never have before. I will say one thing that I really love, and I'll try to bring it up too, is they do have a thing where like you can go through and look at all the Pokemon you've taken pictures of, but they have little 3D models of them. You can spin them around and you can click on them and they do their roar or their kind of their call out, and some of them are just hilarious. They're so weird, but it's just nice to have these little 3D models that you can really get a feel for each design, and that's what I'm talking about. So anyway, I have a lot of thoughts and feelings on new Pokemon Snap. I'm sure we'll get to it. Besides that, let's see. So watched this. Oh, man, why do I keep... Without Remorse. I'm so sorry, Joe. I keep reminding myself that's the name of the movie. But also, I've been watching a show that many people probably don't know or watch. It's on Disney Plus. I used to watch it back when I was like 15 or 16, so like half a lifetime ago. It's this show, a direct sequel to Emperor's New Groove, which is a Disney movie called Emperor's New School. Now, they got most of the voice cast to return except for Cusco. David Spade is not Cusco in this one. And Pacha. It's not John Goodman. It's, I think, Fred Tatasciore, who's done a bunch of other things. The show is actually pretty funny. If you guys like, why can't I think of his name? Patrick Warburton, who's been in a ton of different things. He played Kronk in the original Emperor's New Groove. He is in this show. And Yzma, played by Eartha Kitt. They're both here, and the writing is actually pretty funny for like a family show, and there's a lot of fourth wall breaks and stuff, and it's very entertaining. I recommend checking it out if you want something chill, because that's what I need sometimes after I watch something stressful, like Without Remorse. I'm like, oh my gosh, I need something to just calm down with, you know what I mean? You gonna say something there, Joe? It looked like you're going to. No? Okay. All right. Well, that's pretty much all the time goes I have for now. I feel like I always miss something every week, and then I'm like, oh, we didn't talk about this. But either way, now it's time to move on to my personal favorite segment of the show, Joe, which is called Community Feedback.
And questions.
Yeah. All right, Joe. Oh, so here's the first one for you here, my friend. I wanted to ask about this. Disneyland. I forgot. I was gonna say this with my time killers. Disneyland finally reopened after like over 400 days. I know you've never been before, but congratulations to all the Disneyland folks. Are you gonna go to Disneyland eventually?
Me?
Yeah, you.
No, I go to Disney World.
You're too good for Disneyland?
Yeah, land sounds small. I go big.
No, you'll love it because your dogs won't bark as much.
My feet, yes. What? So will I go to Disneyland? I don't know. Maybe.
Do you want to
Maybe
go
if the opportunity comes up one day.
If only you knew someone who lived close there. I have one question, by the way. It is Disney related. This one comes in from Katie. I wonder who that is. She asks us if you could get rid of one Walt Disney World ride or attraction forever, what would it be and why? Kind of off topic.
The Dino Park place in Animal Kingdom, the tilt-a-whirl thing on the track.
Dude, that's already gone.
Perfect.
No, you can't. You gotta give her something else. You talking about
Scary as hell.
Primeval Whirl? I have video of that, and it's probably one of the best memories we made down there. It's great. It was wonderful.
Yeah,
So
I was
good.
scared. I
Oh,
was scared.
I'm so happy you guys went on it. It was a victory for me. You can't pick that one though, because they're like going to demolish it. It's which, by the way, fun fact, I didn't know this, but back in the day, I forgot about this. They used to have a museum over where Dinorama, Justin Hester's Dinorama is, and they used to have like casts and stuff of a bunch of different dinosaurs that are now in that Restaurantosaurus. So when we went in there that one night, Joe, and we saw the stuff on the walls and stuff, a lot of that was probably from that old museum that doesn't exist anymore. I was like, oh, that's so cool. So
cool.
yeah, good times.
Definitely get rid of Rise of the Resistance. Yeah.
I saw a really funny Kylo Ren animatronic failure at the end of that and today, and basically what happened was he was doing his thing at the end, and then he just kind of broke and he just kind of shrugged. And then like another voice, like a British lady voice, came out and was like, "I'm sorry, we're experiencing some technical difficulties," but the effect of the explosion behind him and the air whooshing out still happened. So like you heard the fans go on, and like the lighting came up over him, so he's just there, and it was like, and like you see his little cape going. It's like, God, oh no, like he's gonna die. Yeah, I thought of you. Like, oh, by the way, happy May the 4th. It's May the 4th today. I'm wearing my Mando shirt.
May the 4th be with you.
May the 4th be with you.
With you also.
But not Rise of the Resistance, probably. Probably not that one.
Who would get rid of a ride?
I'm sorry, that's the question.
It'd be some stupid one I don't care about, like one of the little dinky roller coasters that I didn't. Yeah.
I just wanted like a hot take here from you to be like, no more Big Thunder Mountain. I don't like it.
Oh yeah, that's horrible. Who would do that?
Yeah,
nobody.
Nobody. So you're saying one of the rinky dink? How about the Barnstormer? Didn't we do the Barnstormer?
Yeah, the Barnstormer. I'm over it. I barely fit in the damn thing. I could have fell out.
That used to have an actual barn. You would have loved it back in the day because you go through a barn. It would have been like a childhood. Yeah, I don't know. They have so many of those spinning, like they got the Dumbo rides, Joe, but there's like magic carpets. But no, they've got like the magic carpets and Astro Orbiter. I might get rid of magic carpets. Like I love Aladdin, but like there's so many of those spinning rides in Magic Kingdom alone. There's 3. Like, that's a lot.
Spinning rides, blah blah.
I'm not a fan. I'm probably gonna.
And if anyone were to say Haunted Mansion or even The Little Mermaid, I'd kill them.
You like The Little Mermaid that much?
Yeah, it was fine, it was fun.
I love that you picked the 2 that are like in the same vehicle.
Yeah, I'm just saying for people, I think those might be a little boring. I think they're not bad.
Let me ask you this. I got a question because there's so many people who love the Haunted Mansion. Almost anybody you ask is like, that's my favorite ride. They'll say it's their favorite ride. Not me. I respect it. No, but they talk about the immersion of the ride. Did it for you because you're that kind of guy? Did we talk about this? Does the moving walkway and the actual vehicles themselves, does that like break? Like that's obviously like a logistical thing. If they didn't have that, the ride wouldn't be like the ride we know, right? But like when you think about like the house and stuff and you're like, okay, like they put a moving walkway in here and they have like these little things floating through the house. Like, did the ghosts install these machines? Like they're like, all right, we're gonna crank a lot of people through this house. You know what I mean? Is that ever a consideration?
How else would they do it? They would do it like the Epcot globe thing where you're on like a tram.
Sure, and I'm not saying that they could.
The clamshells make it good because it keeps you away from the people around you.
Yes,
like it's you in there. It everything is you perceiving it. You're not related to the people around you. You don't turn and see heads. I mean, yeah, the car's close, but
yeah,
no, it's well done.
Yeah, I just meant like immersion wise. Did that ever for you for 1 second where you're just like, you're just like, I understand. It has to be this way.
Yeah, it's fine. Mm-hmm. How else would you do it?
I don't know. I've thought about that sometimes. I'm like,
it's a moving sidewalk. Everybody just walk along the moving sidewalk like at an airport, only you're in a haunted mansion.
Yeah. Do we talk about the original version was supposed to be a walkthrough attraction where they take like groups through and stuff? And I was like,
it would take too long.
You could never move
people through.
Yeah, you'd have people standing there who'd just be like, I got to look at this thing for like 3 hours.
Yeah,
and
you can't control people.
Yeah.
People would go off into the exhibit and screw something up and...
I want like a hybrid someday where it's like Pirates / Haunted Mansion, where it's like you go through like it's like a sunken fortress and it's like a scary ghost fortress, but you're in a boat. You know what I mean?
Pirate ghost town thing on a boat. Yeah, I mean, something like that could be cool.
Cool.
It could be cool as a water ride, period. Yeah.
I just love. There's something about water rides. I think because it hides the mechanics of it all. Like for the most part, like you don't really see that stuff.
Yeah,
It's just
that's
like,
why Pirates is kind of fun. I like floating through that, and yeah,
you like
that's
Pirates?
one thing about Disneyland that I think would be awesome.
Oh my
A
god,
longer
you'll love
Pirates
it.
ride.
Pirates or Haunted Mansion though. You got to pick one.
Oh, I like Haunted Mansion if you do it at night, but Pirates is great at night too. Pirates.
I love that you said at night. And right now you've ridden the not as good version. Like that's the one I grew up on too. Is I didn't know there was something better out there. I didn't know the real version existed. It was just like, this is what I got. Man, that queue line though. That's the thing. If you come to Disneyland someday, Joe, you'll be like, this queue line's like nothing, and I'll be like, yeah, but the ride's like almost double the length, and you'll be like, okay, like I can get behind
Which is the important part to me.
Exactly, right? I like the queues though. That Indiana. Oh man, when you come to Indiana Jones one day, oh baby, that queue line. It has to be nice because you have to walk quite a ways. That's the problem with the small parks. You gotta walk a ways and go underneath the railroad. Yeah, that's a good question. It's a hard question to answer. We'll never blackball an actual ride. Side note, they made Snow White's Scary Adventures, Snow White's Enchanted Wish is less scary now. So you can go on there and not be afraid of the Wicked Witch. Or the Evil Queen, I should say. Not Wicked Witch, Evil Queen.
Lame.
Joe's like, make it scarier. Make it terrifying.
Scarier.
I just swear to goodness, if they ever ruin Mr. Toad's Wild Ride and they take out my cardboard cutouts, no, I'm just kidding. That ride could probably use a little bit of a spruce up, but they got to work on it. That's the thing about California, Joe, is because they have so many locals, they got to spruce things up a lot because like they don't want them to get bored. You know, because if you're coming so frequently. Walt Disney World, like they would never change the Haunted Mansion because it's like maybe the only time we'd ever go is like once. So they're like, that's Haunted Mansion regular always. But in Disneyland, they're like, Jack Skellington invaded. And it's like, okay. Like,
oh, really? Yeah.
Yeah, they do a Nightmare Before Christmas overlay that takes over for like a good chunk of the year. Some people really love it. Some people really hate it. Like, really hate it. I want to see it because it looks really cool to me. Like, I'm not even a huge Nightmare fan, but I have a lot of respect for that, especially after watching the movie and then the behind the scenes on it. I'm like, oh my God, like that stop motion, man. It would drive me nuts.
The boogeyman. Oh my God.
Oh, dude, Oogie's there, and he's a full animatronic.
Hey.
Freaky, right? Just a bag of worms, like a big old sack of worms.
Yeah.
Do you think you could ever do stop motion, Joe? Like a stop motion film? I don't think I could. It'd drive me nuts. Just like move it, take the picture. Move it, take the picture.
No.
Anyway, great question, Katie. Thank you for writing in. And if anybody ever else has a question or a topic or an idea for a show, please never hesitate to write in. We'd love to hear from you. All you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcasts. You can do that at Twitter or on Twitter, and we are at Go Critical. You can tweet at me personally. I'm at JimmyGood013. However, you can tweet at Joe, who is at JoeLever_627. That is Lever, just like Beaver, but only with an L. I think I'm getting better at that. Thank you so much. But also, we have a Discord tab that if you want to post questions in there, throw us something, anything. We want to hear from you. And let us know what you thought of Without Remorse. I keep saying it so slowly because I think every time I'm going to botch it. I'm always like, Undoubted Repentance? No. Undoubted Repentance would have been a cool name. There you go, Tom Clancy. Next one.
No. Neither. Not memorable.
How dare you?
Should have just been John Kelly.
Tom Clancy's John Kelly. He'd be like, is it two dudes fighting each other?
Revenge.
Dude, revenge. Dude, we need Tom Clancy's Jack Ryan verse John Kelly or something like that. Do like a verse in there. People be like, oh, like I want to see.
Oh.
But then they'll team up and be buddies. We all saw Batman versus Superman, which I want to leave out on this little fact today, Joe. Apparently, originally Zack Snyder wanted to call Batman versus Superman Dawn of Justice Son of Sun versus Night of Night. Yeah.
Wow.
Right? It's like you get it, but it's also like that would have been a hard thing to sell to people. People would have been like, yeah, I want to see the Batman movie. Like, I want to see the Superman Son of Sun, Night of Night.
Yeah, it's a mouthful.
Right? Like, they would have had to have Lex Luthor, and that'd be like, it's the Son of Sun versus the Night of Night. And everyone like,
yeah.
Really? Yes. Oh, which finally, last shout out here to Jalen, who finally watched our Zack Snyder's Justice League podcast, and he says that he loves us both, and he appreciated the Snyder Cut much more. So kudos to you. He finally got through it. It came out a while ago, but he was like, I'm working my way through it, man. It's 4 hours. He's like,
hell, I might go back and watch it again.
Yeah, if only we could get that aspect ratio changed, right? Like if it could fit the whole screen. I know it's not that big of a deal once you get into it, but at first, it's just like, I just wish. So just scratch it out. I'm sure someone's already modded it. But anyway, yes, if you want to support us, consider checking out our Teespring, where I was showing off our masks last week. You can get a little face mask or t-shirt or something like that. Or just commenting. That helps too. We have a Patreon, but you don't have to do that. And a huge thank you to our patrons who've been with us for like 5 years now, Joe. I can't believe it.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah, so we've had a lot of people who are very supportive. So thank you. If you want to support the show, that's the way to do so. But just hanging out here is pretty good. Let us know what you think of the show. And yeah, we're happy to do any crazy episodes. Kind of a weird time for movies right now. Like I was telling Joe before the show, Tenet finally came out on HBO Max. I'm probably going to watch it. I don't know if we'll talk about it next week, but I was like, okay. I haven't seen it yet. I've wanted to because I like Christopher Nolan stuff, but I still haven't seen Dunkirk, so that's on me. Joe saw Dunkirk in theaters. He can still hear it.
In my nightmares.
I can hear it. It's like they put the gun barrel right next to both my ears, and they just fired.
Like they just rested over your shoulder and just pulled the trigger.
It's like that moment in Mad Max Fury Road where he's not doing well with the sniper, so he hands it to Charlize Theron and she like rests it on his shoulder and takes the shot and gets it, but he's like, oh gosh, like that really hurt. It's a great moment.
Yeah, only it's like repeatedly over.
Yeah, it's like an assault rifle or an LMG or just yeah. I'm still gonna. I think I should check it out. Do you think I should check out Dunkirk, Joe? Not with headphones, maybe.
No, yeah, I mean that's fine.
Okay,
that's fine.
A stunning, a stunning review. You're like a recommendation. You're like it's fine. Yeah. Either way, thank you for being on, buddy. I appreciate you chatting with me as always.
Sure. Yeah.
And thank you, everybody, for listening and tuning in. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome. Bye-bye.
May the 4th be with you.